So I'm delighted to say that now I'm joined by David Lyons, who founded the Tackling Minds charity. How long ago now?
Just over 2.5 years ago, actually. So it'll be 3 years in November.
Excellent. So please put your hands together and welcome David Lyons from Tackling Minds.
Thank you. Cheers.
That is on, isn't it? That's okay.
It is, yes.
Yeah. So, David, I suppose the logical way to start is at the beginning. And I know it's quite an awkward subject in a way, but why did you start Tackling Minds? What happened?
For some people it might be an awkward subject, but the main reason behind Tackling Minds is to show people that it is okay to talk about your mental health. So, by showing people that I'm open about it, hopefully it inspires other people to be open about their own mental health as well. So, just back to the start then is, I've struggled on and off with alcohol addiction for quite a number of years. Back into my teens, just like anybody else, going out socially with my friends, with my family. And gradually over, I'd say, probably about a decade, my drinking increased to the point where I became physically dependent on alcohol as well. So I used to self-medicate because I suffered really bad with anxiety. So at the time, my only coping mechanism was alcohol, unfortunately. And I'd wake up in the morning after a weekend out with friends and unable to get out of the house because my anxiety was that bad. So I'd pick up a drink and just to take the edge off. It wasn't necessarily about the taste, it wasn't about the feeling, it was just to be able to function and go about my day-to-day chores. And things really spiraled out of control, as I say, where I was physically dependent on alcohol. I'd struggle to tie my shoelaces in the morning. Because of the shakes, the tremors, I couldn't pick up a drink. It was, it was really, really, really dark times, not just for me, but what I put my family through as well. And for somebody like my family or anybody else who hasn't been through addiction, it's really hard to understand. And I was in the same position before. I struggle with addiction. It's I think until you've actually been through it, it's you'll never really get your head around it. It's a pretty complex subject, that's for sure.
No, I can understand that. I can understand that. So you were spiralling somewhat.
Yeah.
How did you manage to pull yourself back onto the straight and narrow, if that's a phrase I can use?
Yes, of course, back on the wagon. So, again, I'd fallen off the wagon a number of times, and I'd get back. There'd be periods where I'd abstain from drinking, and I'd get back to the gym. I'd be back in work, and unfortunately, I'd fall back into that trap anyway. It got to the point. Just a quick bit of a backstory. I went to Australia, bit of a crossroads in my life, thinking, fresh start. Unfortunately, my troubles followed me to Australia. So, yeah, I'd continued drinking in and out of sobriety, and it was like I really needed to come home because I needed that support around me. And I got home and things again got from bad to worse, believe it or not, even though I had that support from family, friends. And I ended up in my first detox in Manchester on the NHS because I was drinking that large amounts of alcohol that I needed professional support to be able to come off that and withdraw off it properly. And again, I've been through detoxes. I've just done my 5th detox.
Wow.
And you think, if you've not learned from your first time, what's going on, and you learn something new from each of the detoxes. And in the past, I've become really complacent, and during my periods of recovery, I've never. I couldn't get back into my same social circles for the obvious reasons of going out with my friends and drinking. And I came a bit of a recluse. I wasn't, my social life was pretty non-existent. I wasn't leaving the house again. My mental health was being affected. And I moved across from a lake near where I live in the Manchester area called Holmworth Lake. And I'd not been fishing in over probably literally 20 years. And for those that go fishing, that love of fishing actually never leaves you. And I thought, I'm going to get some pike fishing gear and get back out on the waters again, which I did. And I submerged myself in the YouTube videos, the tutorials, and straight away I thought, it was giving my mind something to focus on. And this is before I'd even got out on the bank. So I'd done all my research with what gear, what bait I'm going to buy, and then before you know it, I'm back on the bank pike fishing in the middle of winter. And instantaneously I saw the benefits that I was getting just through a few sessions. Well, I'd say a few, literally the first session out. It was better than any medication, the million and one medications, the number of different talking therapies that I've tried in the past, and nothing quite compared to the benefits I was getting through being out on the water.
And were you catching?
And you know what, and I wasn't even catching. And that's, unbelievable, I wasn't catching. So, bear in mind that did spare me on. But so if I'm going out fishing, and yet I'm getting so many benefits and I'm not even catching fish at this stage, and I knew there was something in it, and it was through talking to a friend that I was saying, the benefits that I'm getting is, and I've struggled so much with my mental health, and as I said, my addiction as well. And I thought, if this is going to work for me, it's got to work for other people. And just how my mind works just started ticking away, and I came up with the idea with Tackling Minds. And if it meant supporting one person, great. If it meant supporting a few people, even better. And Tackling Minds now goes on to supporting thousands of people, and through getting fishing also prescribed on the NHS, which people can actually go to the GP and be prescribed fishing as an alternative to medication, but also to complement other medications as well. And now other organisations are adopting this model, and fishing is now being prescribed on a national basis. So,
well, that's amazing. So how did you manage to reach out from it just being an army of one?
yeah.
Suddenly, sounds like a daft question, but how do you find other people with mental health issues so that you can help?
So it started off by social media and just doing a bit of research, really. Just, how do you promote an organisation? How do you market an organisation? That brand awareness. And it was clear to see just consistency on Facebook, which is something I've done from the very beginning, on being very active on if it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. And just been inundated from both volunteers and people wanting to come and use the service as well. And the story with regard to getting fishing prescribed in the NHS, which, bear in mind, there is a number of fishing organisations already working with the NHS, but none had adopted what is called the social prescribing model. So basically, social prescribing is being prescribed holistic therapies, such as walking, it could be art classes, dancing classes, cooking, and fishing wasn't recognised as one of those therapies. And it was through my sister, who works for the NHS, that said, you need to find out about social prescribing and, find out if fishing actually is being prescribed, and it actually wasn't. So it was sort of a no-brainer to me, and it was like, again, if I could get my foot in the door with the NHS, which I did do, it was like making a lot of noise on social media, but also just literally emailing, ringing around, and just hard work, really. I say hard work, just being persistent, let's say.
So you've managed to now get it to a stage where you're helping thousands of people, and I know you're very regularly out on the bank, so you have a number of volunteer coaches. And how many sessions of fishing do you do a week on average, would you say?
So for instance, this week we've had 4 sessions on this week. So there's a session on as we speak right now over in the Manchester area. So each of those sessions we get between 6 to 12 service users who come down on the bank with us, and we have a network now of around 400 volunteers.
Wow, that's incredible. So these service users, as you call them, is it a mixed age range? How do you go about finding these people and helping them?
Yeah, so we do work with a number of organisations. Other than the NHS, we do work with schools, we work with army veterans with complex PTSD issues, mental health organisations. So the demographic we work with is quite open, in all honesty. So, for instance, like what the young, I say kids, it's young people is the correct terminology we use these days, apparently. So the young people we work with, the benefits they get is a lot more different than, say, the adults with PTSD issues. And so, for instance, we work with a lot of young people who struggle in mainstream education. So with patients, even some at hyperactivity, if it's ADHD, again, quite complex mental health issues. And that time in the bank with us, you put a fishing rod in the hand and you've got the full attention for the 2 hours, and they love it. Whereas the guys who come down with PTSD issues, it's It's just a refreshing break, if it's for 2, 3, 4 hours, however long they come with us, just to escape from what they're going through on a daily basis. And you can see what it does to people. It's quite amazing, to be honest.
So you managed to put together a network of volunteers who come along and coach, but obviously you've grown very quickly in, how long did you say, 3 years?
2.5
Two and a half years. So how, as the organisation is growing and you're outreaching, and many of you may well have seen Dave on TV or heard him on the radio talking about this, how do you manage, what are your requirements now? Where do you take the organisation next? And how are you going to do that? Because this is volunteers, right?
Yeah, so again, I'm unpaid with Tackling Minds, so this is something I've done on a voluntary basis myself. But my ambition on the network of volunteers, you know, we have quite a close community of volunteers as well, and we do want to nationalise this. And I think with my skill set as well, it was quite evident that I could only really get it so far. You know, as I say, my ambition is there, but Tackling Minds has drawn so much support, be it from the tackle trade, be it from general members of the public, be it from just anglers as well, but people who don't necessarily like fishing but like the concept of Tackling Minds and just generally supporting people with mental health. So we've got a number of people in the background, again on a voluntary basis, but with that more experience in the corporate background on how to scale these type of organisations. But that's up until more recently, it's just been my own and myself and my persistence and the support from the people like Dave, who's with us today, who volunteer their time on the bank.
Right. So are there particular roles within the organisation that you now need that perhaps we can ask around and see if we can find the right people to help out? Are there particular roles that you currently need?
So we are currently looking for a project manager. Again, you apologise my lack of inexperience when it comes to growing organisations. And
well, we don't all do it every day, do we?
I've done something right. I'm not too sure how I've managed to get so far. But yeah, a project manager, and that would be required to sort of, if it's a shadow myself, and sort of guide me and push the organisation onto that next level. As I say, we have got people, directors and non-execs in the background, HR and stuff, and somebody, you know, with that passion to what support people with mental health issues. It's not necessarily people who have a fishing background, but just that knowledge of, you know, how to scale an organisation.
So if anybody out there knows anybody who fits that bill, I'm sure Dave would love to hear from you at some point. He's easy to find on social media. He really is. So talk to me as well. I mean, the amount of support that you've had from all walks of life seems quite incredible, and it's probably because you continue to push this. But talk to me about the support that you've had from the tackle trade, because, you know, we all want more people fishing. So was that an easy ask?
Again, I'll always say this. I think it's so important how the role social media plays today, and I think it's still quite surprising that a lot of people don't really know that as well. So just through being so active, as I keep saying, it's brought the attention of some of the larger angling trades, be it Shimano, who are here today. A huge sport of ours is Angling Direct,
yeah.
And people like yourselves, the Angling Trade Association as well. You know, it's really, honestly, it's really overwhelming, the attention that Tackling Minds is got. So, for instance, Angling Direct, if it's tackle donations, if it's they even donate some of their staff time to coaching on the bank as well. And Tackling Minds also sells merchandise on Angling Direct's website, which is the largest online retailer. Is it in the country or Europe, John?
I think, well, certainly in the country.
In the country, yeah.
Certainly in the country.
And more recently, Angling Direct have also said they're going to stock Tackling Minds merchandise in 13 of their 40 plus stores. So that's almost a quarter of the store. So in terms of the revenue side of things, that's such a benefit for Tackling Minds, being able to support more people, if it's training more angling coaches. So to be able to facilitate a session, we need a level 2 angling coach for legalities, for the legal reasons. And if it's a DBS, first aid, insurance, and it costs to go through your level 1, your level 2, it costs just short of £1,000. So
wow.
You know, a lot of the money goes to that as well.
I was going to say, it's important to say that because this is a voluntary organisation. The money doesn't come to you guys. The money goes to where it's actually needed in terms of facilitating the right people to help and coach, and presumably just be a mentor sometimes for people as well, or give them a shoulder of support.
And a lot of the time, and this is something we say, is the fishing can be sometimes quite secondary, and it's through the lived experiences, through the volunteers who've also had their own struggles and mental health. It's just like say, if it's just somebody to come and chat to, and you'll find when we are working with the NHS, some of the service users we do work with, it's the only time in the week they actually get to leave their unit. So
wow.
It's how valuable that few hours on the bank is with the volunteers you're spending that time with, and obviously spending it outside in the green, blue spaces, as we know how many benefits there are with that now. And we've gone on to evidence that with groundbreaking scientific research.
I was just about to ask about the research. No, I was just about to ask about that, because that's a fascinating thing. Because tell us about the studies you've been doing, because there have been something quite unique.
Yeah, so we was approached by Angling Direct, the CEO at the time, Andy Torrance, to inform us about the research and if we wanted any involvement with it. Because at this stage it was just a word of mouth that fishing is great for your mental health, and we didn't have any. There's been research done, but not peer-reviewed scientific research. So to be asked to be involved in that was sort of a no-brainer. And we worked alongside Professor Lee Smith from Anglia Ruskin University, and we managed to get just short of 2,000 people involved in the research.
Wow.
Which concluded that it's been proven now that fishing is beneficial, but not only decreasing anxiety levels, reducing anxiety levels, reducing depression, and also suicide rates as well.
And am I right in saying you're now on sort of a stage 2 of this? There's a second part of the research now happening?
So we just released the second paper of the initial stage of the research, and we're going to be doing the second stage of the research, which is going to be more in-depth research with service users on the bank. And again, it's never been done to the extent we're going to be doing now. There are some amazing organisations who do some amazing research out there, and it just adds value to what everybody else is doing. So
what's your vision for tackling mines going forward? Say we're sitting here in 3 years' time. What's the conversation going to be about, Dave? Where do you see? Where would you like tackling mines to be? Because there are people out there who will be able to help you for sure.
So where tackling mines will be in a few years, or hope it to be in a few years, is have. If it's a tackling mines hub, if it's, we want to be a national organisation, so it's definitely expanding on our current model in the Manchester area, which we're doing to like a really high level now, and just expanding that model into other areas.
I mean, I would say if you're not too familiar with tackling mines, do go and check them out on Facebook, because and as Dave said, on all the social media, LinkedIn and Twitter and so on. But certainly some of the Facebook feeds. They're live on the bank from many of the sessions, and you get a real insight into the benefits that these guys are actually receiving when they're sitting there fishing. And it's not a day out fishing. It is for them. It's an escape from something. It's a support network that they get. It's a chance perhaps to chat confidentially to somebody, which they wouldn't otherwise have in a very agreeable atmosphere, on a very agreeable environment. Is that about right?
Yeah, 100%. Again, I'll always relate back to the fishing can be so secondary at times, but adding fishing into the equation, it just gives people something to focus on. If it's learning a new skill, if it's just taking the mind away for that few hours to get with us. So,
well, I think that's a truly positive message, and I think that's something that probably chimes with most of us anyway. Most of us will go fishing or spend time in the outdoors because it makes us feel good. We're not necessarily going out to catch the biggest fish. We're not necessarily going out to achieve a personal best running through the countryside or shooting clays or something. What we're out there for is to enjoy nature and to make ourselves feel better. And what you're doing is absolutely incredible, Dave. So if anybody wants to support what Dave is doing, do please look them up. Do please look up Tackling Mines on social media. Have a chat with Dave. I'm sure he'll be happy to answer any questions that you guys may have. But please support this. a lot of people in the country are well aware of this now. The tackle trade's behind it. Lots of other organisations are behind it. To get fishing prescribed on the NHS is frankly mad, but you've done it in a very short space of time, and more power to you, Dave.
Yeah,
It's been brilliant.
Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Dave Lyons from Tackling Minds.
Thank you. Cheers.